Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 8th talk of 2022, the Ottawa Sailing Community Speaker Series. My name is Park Davis, and I'm back. I'm going to be your MC tonight. As a recap, there's 4 more talks to go, one every Wednesday now till the 6th of April. The full listing, the listing of those that remain are on the website, nsc.ca. And just to tell you, all of the talks are recorded. They're being recorded. And if you want to look back at anything that we've already covered now or in the future, at any time you can search Nepean Sailing Club on YouTube, and that's where you'll find the recordings. These talks are free. This year, however, we instituted a system of donations using the Eventbrite functionality. Thanks to all of you who have already donated. Every week I try and find out what's our latest total, and now we have just about $1,300 raised towards the Eventbrite or the Legacy Fund. These talks are organized by 4 of us working together on probably all of the aspects, but the leads we take are as follows. Tony Wright is our webmaster, and he works to publicize the talks. He's also become our Zoom master and Eventbrite master. And next person, Stephen Kidd. He works with scheduling and finding speakers, and behind the scenes working with Tony each Wednesday evening. And he also does double duty as alternate MC from time to time. Now, we're always looking for new stories to tell, new experiences of individuals. So if you have anything like that that you'd like to relate to our audience, please come forward. You can get in touch with us, and now we have our very own address. It's called Winter Speaker at nsc.ca, Winter Speaker at nsc.ca, and that will go to all 4 of us. And the 4th person is Ron Evans. He's joined us as a video editor, and he prepares the recordings for posting on the YouTube channel. Lastly, I'm Park Davis. We already said that, and I'm taking care of the MC duties. Now, before we go on with tonight's presentation, just want a short ad for next week, the 16th of March. So Kevin Davis, no relation, by the way, but Kevin Davis, he's going to be here to talk about taking care of your diesel engine. And so I recommend all of you listen as he tells us all of those secrets that he's gleaned over the years working in the auto mechanics and stationary diesel engine fields. Like he tells me where to find the spark plugs. So we'll see about that. So tonight's presentation, Michele Cimon is going to talk today, and she's the former NSC Sail Training Director, and she's now lead for the NSC Adaptive Sailing Program at the Nepean Sailing Club. She's going to tell us a story of how NSC came to host the AbleSail program and how it grew over the last 25 years. Michele's presentation is going to provide some detail of the facilities we have, the types of people who we serve, what programs we offer, and how to get involved, both if you'd like to sail or if you'd like to accompany those in the AbleSail program that are out sailing. Michele has a long career in high tech. When she's not working, however, she's traveling, racing at J22 regattas, or she's skiing and enjoying their home in J Peak, and that's very handy to the ski hills with her hubby, Johan. So, Cimon, without anything further, let's turn things over to you.
Thank you, Park. Appreciate it. I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get going. Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening. Just going to There we go. Thanks everyone for joining this evening. Really appreciate your attention. And I really liked seeing that 20%, almost 20% are not from any club and not even maybe a sailor, and looking for some information as to how you can get involved either as a participant or as a volunteer. I'd also like to thank some of the folks on the phone who were really kind to help me out with the presentation. I've only been working with AbleSail for 3 or 4 years, but there's, as this slide says, 25 years of history. So I had to do some digging and do some reaching out. I'm going to kind of cover a little bit of ground this evening for the uninitiated who might not even know what the NSC AbleSail program is. I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where it is in the club. We'll talk a little bit about a timeline and give you a sense of how it began and what happened over the early years. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mobility Cup, which is sort of the premier event in adaptive sailing. Talk a little bit about the AbleSail champions at Nepean Sailing Club, and then we'll kind of dive into our programming and where we get support from outside of the club. We're really important for our programs, critical actually. And then how to get involved, how to be a volunteer, and what kind of positions we're always looking for. And yeah. All right. So what is it? What is NSC AbleSail? NSC is it's an adaptive sailing program for people of all abilities, physical disabilities. We actually also cater to some people with intellectual disabilities, group homes, etc. We cater to all levels, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an avid and keen racer. Our entire facility is actually accessible. So everything from the walkway from the clubhouse right out to the ramps that go down to the docks, the washrooms inside of the facility that's there, and you know, you can pretty well go in a wheelchair anywhere on the property, and especially down to the dock. So completely accessible. We offer both onshore under the gazebo, as you can see in that photo. There's now 2 down there, or even on the water coaching as well. And actually, for those of you that don't know how to sail, we actually provide you with people that do, to ride along with you so that you can learn in a safe environment. All right. The equipment. This is a Martin 16. All of these pictures, and really safe boats, really hard to tip over. If I've never seen one tip over, so really stay safe, really stable. And they're easily adapted to people with individual and specific needs. So in the top photo, you'll see that there's some specific equipment here. Down here, we have somebody using sip and puff. Here we have somebody using a windlass, and this is actually called a cape chair, which helps to support the trunk. So there's lots of different technology that we can put in the boats to tweak to different abilities. And inside of the Martin, you'll notice that there's a nice comfy seat for your companion sailor, but in this picture here, you can also actually sail the boat alone. Okay. Where is AbleSail at NSC? Well, most of you folks that have been around for a while may remember that it used to be on Dock A. It used to be on the gangway as you went down. It isn't there anymore. It is right out at the end of W Dock with its own space now. It was moved mainly because obviously we needed more space because the program was growing, but also because when there's no wind, it's really hard to get a Martin 16 out of the harbor because they don't have a motor. So now they're as close as you can get to the mouth of the harbor. It's very easy for them to get out and get back into the harbor. And there's now lots and lots of space for them to moor boats and to put the coach boat, etc. We've actually grown the dock space actually in the last couple of years as well. And I'll talk more about that later. Okay. This is the timeline. Don't be afraid, I'm not going to read it to you. But just some of the key highlights over the last 25 years. I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail about George Simpson, who was the reason we have an AbleSail program. We'll go into that. The timeline shows you sort of how we acquired our boats, when we acquired our boats, when we were actually host to 3 times the Mobility Cup over the years in 2003, 12, and 19. It shows you where we got some of our funding and how our relationship with the CASA started, the National Capital AbleSail Association. So again, I won't read it to you. I'll leave it to, look at some of the highlights here, but it just shows that there's been a lot going on over the last 25 years. There's been some highlights and in the program, as you see here, and I'm actually going to go into a little bit more detail on some of the items on the timeline. First, I'd like to start with George. There would be no AbleSail program at the Nepean Sailing Club if it hadn't been for George Simpson. George was a quadriplegic and decided that he wanted to go sailing. He had approached Glenn McIntosh, who at the time was on the board at the NSC, and in 1996, and they tried to make a Tanser work for George to get out sailing. It didn't really work that well. George was undeterred and not discouraged, so he got his way out to Vancouver and went to his first Mobility Cup, and that's where he met people that, like himself, wanted to be a sailor. And he brought the message back to Nepean and worked with a number of volunteers, including Keith Hobbs, who then got a Sunbird sailboat outfitted for him, and that was really how it began. There's a lot more detail to that story. For those of you that are Nepean members, you may remember an article that came out in the October timeframe, and that's when George passed away, quite sadly. So we, although George is gone, we all still miss him and appreciate the effort that he went to get this program started. If you remember George, you'd like to actually continue to donate to his legacy, you can actually use that address. And I was very excited when I was on the board in November of 2021 to pass a motion that we renamed the entire AbleSail dock area to the George Simpson Landing. And those are a couple pictures of George. So big thank you to George for all of his efforts and everybody else that was involved along the years or through the years. And so this is always dangerous when you put up some names and want to thank people and identify people that were involved. But I want to give you just some names that were passed along to me as some of the key people that were involved in the early days, who were some of the key sailors and who were some of the key volunteers that came out in the very, very early days of AbleSail. I want to pay special attention to Marcel here. Marcel Laroche was involved with AbleSail for a very, very long time, and he actually took responsibility of maintaining all of the boats, which was a pretty big job over the years, and he did that right up until 2017. Continuing in our timeline, here are some more names. As people started to join into the program, they got to racing, and actually NSC sailors were doing very well, almost dominating Mobility Cup results through the years in the early 2000s. We had a couple of really great sailors that went away from Nepean and did some really fantastic things, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But a couple of names that you'll see later include Aaron Wansing and Christine Lavallee, who did really well. Both of them now own actually their own 2.4 meter boats and travel internationally, representing Nepean and CASA in their endeavors. So we talked a little bit about the Mobility Cup. What is the Mobility Cup? The Mobility Cup is international in nature. People from anywhere in the world will come and sail in the Mobility Cup. It travels across Canada to different yacht clubs. And as I had said earlier, we actually hosted it 3 times in the past, in 2003, 2012, and 2019. The Mobility Cup wasn't held in 2021 and 2020 because of COVID, but we are on track for it to happen again, quite pleased to say, and it'll be held at the Northern Yacht Club in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So if you're in the neighborhood at that time period, August 29th to September 2nd, drop in. I'm sure that they could use a few volunteers, but just to go and see the racing is also pretty exciting. a little bit more about the Mobility Cup and how it began. It actually started back in 1986 when the then UK PM, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, donated a boat, a Sunbird sailboat, to Rick Hansen in honor of his Man in Motion tour. Rick Hansen, gave it to Sam Sullivan, who was involved with disabled sailing in BC. And out of that, in 1991, came the very first Mobility Cup. It was Sam's idea that if he invited people from all across Canada, that they would take the message of adaptive sailing back to their own clubs. And guess what? It worked. And that's exactly what happened. People got excited in all of the different provinces across Canada. And now we have 17 disabled sailing associations across the country, including our very own, the National Capital AbleSail Association. So good on Sam Sullivan, I would say. So just, I don't have slides from all of the times that we hosted the Mobility Cup, but I thought it would just a couple of slides on the time that we did host in 2019. These are just a couple of photos from that event, and it's a long time planning. People come from across the country and around the world. Hundreds of volunteers involved in the 6-day event. There's a couple of different classes of fleets, so you can be a really avid competitive sailor in the Gold Fleet, but if you're new and you're just learning racing and you're still working on it and getting up to speed, you could actually join the Silver Fleet. So it's a pretty inclusive event for all types of sailors. And yeah, fun times. I did allude to introducing you to a couple of our stars, our champions. So Christine Lavallee, actually, I'm not going to read off of all of the things that she's accomplished, and this is just a short list of some of the things that she's done. She's definitely represented Nepean very well, gold medal at the Canada Summer Games in 2013, selected to the Canadian sailing team in 2015. Christine is a very active racer, traveling with her 2.4 meter. I believe that her boat might have gotten stranded down in Florida at the beginning of COVID, but she eventually got it back. But I'm sure she'll be hitting the road soon to get to regattas as they start popping up post-COVID. So thank you, Christine, for representing well. And Aaron, I know you might even be on the line tonight, Aaron. I did want to say thank you for representing well. Aaron's also been very successful on the road, going to a number of different regattas across Canada, representing the Nepean Sailing Club and the CASA. So thank you, Aaron, for your great success. And I'm sure that you'll be hitting the road with Christine and Peter and others in your 2.4 meters as regattas start to open up. I'm not going to read this list, but I just did want to let everybody on the phone know that before COVID hit, there was quite a list of regattas that people can go to. As some of you that know me, I'm a big regatta person in my J22. There was an equal number of really great places to go in AbleSail or adaptive sailing to, Rhode Island, across, Canada and Quebec and Ontario, down to Lake George, beautiful spot. So just letting you know, hopefully we'll see some of these coming back in 2022. I know 2 or 3 of them already have dates, so hopefully we'll have somewhere for the sailors to go in 2022. Gonna shift gears a little bit here. We've been talking a lot about racing. We've been talking a lot about regattas and how the program got started. Besides the racing, there's actually a learn to sail component to what we do. And in the beginning, back in the early to mid 2000s, the Nepean Sailing Club put in some programs or started some programs that were more about learn to sail as opposed to racing. And it's been about 20 years of programs. People have come and gone. We've gone from a model of federally supported student grants paying for instructors to the money drying up and using volunteers more for programming. There's been a lot of turnover. There's been a lot of great successes, winning NSC winning Sailing School of the Year. So there's been a lot of ups and downs over the 20 years We're probably at this point in a bit of a hybrid model where we are relying on and winning grant money and getting government grant subsidies, et cetera, while also relying heavily on volunteers. So we're hoping to do some more long-term planning so we don't have the same ups and downs that the program has realized on the Learn to Sail side. So hopefully, and with the team, the great team that we have right now, we can put some plans in place to keep things a little bit more stable moving forward. So I'll talk a little bit about the programs that we're running this year. We did not run programs in 2020. We ran one program in 2021 as COVID started to loosen up. So we have Learn to Sail for both beginner and intermediate people. They learn together. So we have 5 boats. And so a program is always made up of 5 people, and they can be a mix of beginner and intermediate. And the coach or instructor takes into consideration where the people are in their learning, et cetera, and customizes how they're treated on the water and on shore. So we, whether you've been in a sailboat in your life and you just want to get started, we can do that. And maybe you've already taken the beginner course and you just want to continue your journey of learning. And so you can also join on the intermediate program. We actually have people come back to keep that intermediate and do it, 2 or 3 times just because they like to get out and they like to keep learning. This year we have only run one night of Learn to Sail in the past, last little while, went before COVID. And we've actually almost 50% sold, running two nights this year. So we sold out of the one night and we actually added another. So the program's already quite popular. And we look forward to actually increasing our programs this year in 2022 for the Learn to Sail component. We talked a lot about racing. We will be trying to put back a Learn to Race program on the weekends. And hopefully people that are going to the Mobility Cup in Nova Scotia this year can come out and get some race training before they go off to the regatta. Another thing that kind of got hit with COVID was our recreational programs, where people that have already gone through the Learn to Sail, beginner and intermediate, want to go out and just take a boat out and go sailing with or without a companion sailor. We'll hope to bring that back in 2022. So stay tuned for that, folks. I'm sure that would be a very well received activity. Just a point of note on the Learn to Race. Anybody that is racing is usually has to go through all of the beginner programs first before they actually can go into the race programs. We do have Wednesday night racing, which is free for members. So you do have to be an Nepean member, and you do have to have completed all of the Learn to Sail programs in order to participate. Fortunately, it's really popular. So we have more people than boats. And so the folks that do like to race in the Martins on Wednesday, they have to go through a bit of a rotation. So you might not be able to get out every week. It might be every other week. I guess a good problem to have, but yeah, so they're very, very healthy group that comes out on Wednesday. And we talked a lot about the regattas already, so I won't go into that too much. I'm going to shift gears again. The programs at Nepean are partially funded through sign-up fees on the Learn to Sail side, but we try to keep the fees very low so that they're affordable. And so the cost of running a coach boat and having coaches, et cetera, it breaks even or may not even cover the cost of running the program. So we rely heavily on support from different bodies. One of the most generous and one that's been around since the very beginning is the National Capital AbleSail Association. They are a charity, and their mission is to promote people with disabilities and full and active lifestyles through sailing. NACASA has been very generous through the years in their time and their support, and have been supporting us since 1998. In 2021 alone, just as an example, and this is when, you know, in the middle of COVID, they actually were able to buy Nepean, contribute to a set of sails and a new Cape seat, and paid some staffing costs for us and funded new lines and things like that. They also fund the annual volunteer recognition events, and have already agreed to sponsor our upcoming Give It a Go event, which I'll talk a little bit about more in a second. But, you know, thank you, NACASA, for all that you do. We couldn't do it without you, that is for sure. Some of the other assistance we get actually comes in the award of capital grants, and the Ontario Trillium Foundation has also been extremely generous over the years. In 2019, actually, when we hosted the Mobility Cup at the Nepean Sailing Club, we were awarded 2 brand new Martin 16s, as well as funding for our dock edition. So the Ontario Trillium Foundation has come in, been very generous multiple times over the years. Some of the smaller grants that the Nepean AbleSail benefits from this year will come from WISE, the Canadian Women in Sport. We've already been awarded a $2,500 grant to in support of an all-women's adaptive sail, learn to sail program, which we believe will be running on Sundays. Stay tuned for that. Then we've also we're just wrapping up a grant request for the Jumpstart program to run day programs for youth. And we're also looking forward to hopefully getting some funding from the Government of Canada in their summer students funding process. So things are looking very good for this year, and we hope to be able to continue that the process of writing grants and applying, and of course NACASA has always been very generous. So. Okay, so we've talked about where we came from and what programming we offer. We couldn't run these programs at all if it weren't for volunteers. So this next section is probably the most important section of the entire deck. I want to just thank, I know there's people on the phone or on the call that have been volunteering with AbleSail since the beginning of time. Thank you. We're looking this evening, if you're just curious coming out tonight, if you're looking for somewhere to come and spend some time, we'd love to hear from you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through some of the roles and the positions that we have within the volunteer organization within AbleSail. And if you have any questions, that is my email on the bottom of the slide there, if you have any questions and you want to follow up. So on the AbleSail program, companion sailing, obviously, we'll talk a little bit about that. So that's the person that sort of sits behind in the boat and helps the participant to get away from the dock, get back to the dock, and helps them on the water. We have dock captains who kind of run the show while we're loading participants and getting people into boats and keeps everybody organized. The coach boat operator is also a safety boat. So escorts goes out with the participants. The lift transfer assistant is somebody that operates one of these little red lifts, of which there's, I believe, 5 or 6 on the dock. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then, you know, we have our standard boat maintenance and work party requests and social event planning with usually with NACASA. We'll talk a little bit more about each one of them. I'm not going to read slides to you, but here you'll see the companion sailors are sitting behind the participant. Sometimes you are an active participant in helping them sail, and sometimes you're just along for the ride. It really depends on the nature of their experience, etc. So some people get matched with a sailor and they always sail together, and sometimes other people you'll just kind of go with whoever needs you. So if you're a sailor and you want to have another opportunity to just get out on the water, companion sailing might be for you. The dock captain, hopefully none of these things happen in the pictures happen to you, but the dock captain is really just providing all of the guidance and assistance to all of the people that are out, all of the other folks that are out helping. So helps everybody with docking, getting people off the dock, getting people back in, makes the call if there's inclement weather, and just make sure that at the end of the session, things are left tidy and secure, and make sure that there can't be any damage done and that everything gets put away properly. The coach boat operator, sometimes referred to as the safety boat. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious they escort people out onto the water. Sometimes they will be required to tow the boats back when the wind dies. And in order to be a coach boat operator, you actually have to be certified. You have to have your boat operator's license and a few other things in order to be able to use the Nepean equipment. But if you are interested in that, we're always looking for coach boat operators. Lift transfer assistance. This is something that we will train you to do if you don't have previous experience. Usually have a minimum of 3 people involved in lifting a participant in or out of the boat. So again, you will get training. There's lots of people around to help. And again, a minimum of 3 people are involved. You would never do this on your own in a program anyway. Right. And launch and haul out work parties. I usually get lots of people out for these. So this is the motley crew that hauled us out in the fall. Thank you all. And there's just a lot of little maintenance things as well that if people want to, you know, tinker with boats, we have lots of little things that you can do. This year we will be re-rigging the entire fleet so that they all match. That's one of our problems, is everyone's different, and so we'd like them all to match, and that'll be a big job in the spring to just get them all to be consistent. I talked a little bit about training already. There's lots of volunteer positions. They're all supported by either in-person orientation sessions or online training. And we're also building a library of videos so you can go to YouTube and learn how to use some of the specialized equipment, and then come, you know, to the dock and we'll show you everything in person. Very fun and supportive group, and I really encourage you to come out and meet everybody. And again, the first of 2022 orientation sessions is going to happen probably towards the end of May, as soon as things start to happen in the yard. This is another dangerous slide because I'm probably forgot somebody, but I really want to thank all of the people that came out in 2021. Still COVID, still lots of concerns by lots of people. So thank you everyone that came out in 2021. I hope to see you all again in 2022, and hopefully we'll have some new names to add to the list and be able to talk about roles that you can take on. Something that we will be needing volunteers for on June 25th. We're having what's called a Give It a Go. Is going to be our first of, I hope, of many. It's an adaptive sport community event. We are partnering with the Ottawa River Canoe Club, and participants that want to come out and try sailing, try canoeing, try paddling. We will have lots of volunteers. There's going to be a barbecue sponsored by NACASA. So we just really hope that people will come out and try one or both sports and just meet some people, learn more about the programs, etc. So if you're interested in, you know, we're looking in being involved, we're looking for all facets of volunteers, whether it's just, you know, being friendly at the welcome tent, or greeting people, or being a companion sailor, or even helping out at the barbecue. So just let me know and we will put you to work. And that's what I have this evening, guys. I hope you found that interesting. And again, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A. And for anybody that's interested in being involved and came out just curious this evening, just reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you and hopefully get you involved either as a participant or as a volunteer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michele. That was really interesting. For years, I know what's been going on the AbleSail program to the extent that it's AbleSail, but never have I had a presentation on how it started and the facilities we have and all the programs. So I really appreciate that. One thing I do recall, I think it was prior to COVID, but I think the Martin 16s used to come out on Thursday evenings in the Jam fleet. And that's the Jibs in Maine. It's a race program, usually at 6:30 on Thursday evenings. Is that still underway or possibly?
I think that we're, again, Nepean is a little bit a victim of their own success. So the jam night is the most popular racing night at Nepean. And these boats are so small that we really I would be concerned personally that most people might not even see them, because if I see water park coming down, on the river, it can be pretty intimidating. So I think that personally, I think there's other things we can do on the recreational program side that isn't so intimidating as being on the start line with these boats that are so much bigger than the Martins. So for me, it's more of a safety thing. And I'm just hoping that we can provide another way to get out on the water that isn't as intimidating, kind of thing. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does, because I'd often wondered on a rough night with Martin 16s, they disappear between waves at times.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking, but if you can't see them, you can't see them. And so what you've explained makes perfect sense. Do you have an idea of, let's say, the total number of able sailors we currently serve?
Yeah, on Wednesday nights, that's the racing night, there's a good group of probably between 15 and 20 people that are currently using the boats. We obviously lost some numbers with COVID. It's been 2 years, so we'll hopefully see those numbers increase. We have 5 boats, so any programming is 5 people. So the more programming we can run, the more people we will get out. And increasing things like the Women in Sport, all women's Learn to Sail program, adding the children's programs. So, we need to increase our programming, but we also need to kind of build up back our numbers since pre-COVID.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Going to some of the other questions here. First one is it primarily geared to younger sailors? And that's a good question for you.
Question. We would love for it to be. We actually had a group meeting for our Give It a Go event because we'd like to attract a younger crowd, more of the, not so much little kids because they can't see out of the top of the boats, but more of a youth, early 20s sort of age. And that's really what we're hoping to target at the Give It a Go event, going out to universities and to promote, et cetera. So we would love to increase the interest of younger people. That's something that we wanted to do pre-COVID. That kind of got parked. So that's really is a focus of ours this year, is to get, I would say, teens and youth, teens and early 20s would really be something we'd be interested in promoting to this year.
While you'd promote them, there's no upper age cutoff.
Nope.
Anybody is welcome.
Everyone, anybody. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Male, female, of course. So, okay. Yep. We have comments here, compliments from Elizabeth for you. It's not a question, but very well done on a great presentation. And they're looking forward very much to involvement in the program.
Fantastic.
So next question is sort of the question I asked. Are we not going into jam anymore? So you've answered that question.
We have to look at it. And, obviously the 2.4 meters can do what they want. But, it's a matter of, are the boats already in use? Do recreational sailors want to use them? Do we have another program running? And, do I feel comfortable, and does sail training director feel comfortable having the Nepean assets out there when there's so many jam boats out there? I almost rather send them out on Tuesdays when there's less people, kind of thing. So,
yeah, just for those that aren't aware, I guess it could easily be 60 or 65 boats out there.
I do race committee on Thursdays. It's busy out there. So
extremely busy, yes. So a question here, can I join the women's LTS? if I'm already qualified in racing for more experience and time on the water?
Yes. Yeah, we're actually trying to make it more than just learn to sail. We're actually trying to make it actually a social side of it too. So included in some of the costing, like let's all get up to the club and break some bread and you know, have the coach debriefing and that kind of idea. So we're actually trying to make it a more than just, you know, go from the dock, go out sailing and come back. We're building a program around how often are we going to have it? Are we going to split it? Or, you know, what do we want to include? So we're in development, but I would love to, that's not the first person that's asked that. So
Okay.
there's been a couple of folks that have said, I've already taken the beginner and intermediate. Can I still come? And I'm like, absolutely, absolutely, you can.
Very good. Let's see. I have a question here. Is this program just meant for people with disabilities?
It really depends. No, I would say no, and especially on the children and the young people, the youth side. When you develop a program for youth, or even for you know, people in the early 20s, their friends are not disabled most of the time. So the programs we want to develop are just for kids and youth of all abilities. If you want to bring your friend, bring your friend. And if that's the case in another program where maybe they're not kids and they want to bring somebody along and be a part of the program and learn sailing together, but not that they're not both disabled, then I would say bring it on. Absolutely. You know, it's if I think it's important that people learn with their friends if that's what they want to do. So I
Sure.
would encourage that as well.
And always there's the jump seat behind available if two people want to go, one
Oh,
fully abled and one differently
yeah.
abled.
So,
So-
I mean, Matt Davidge, who you all know if you're at Nepean, you know, one of his, he's asked if he can come and you know, companion sail for one of his friends who is has a disability, and you know, that's a perfect example of you know, I have a friend that's got a disability, I want to come out and sail with him, and so Matt is just going to join in and be that person's companion for the program.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, for those that are concerned about being on the water, when we first got a Martin 16, I happened to be there with the Commodore who tried his damnedest to sink it by filling it with water, and it still wouldn't sink.
Nope.
So that was back in the days when Jeff Nelson was around, and so they do not sink. And I know that's what they said about the Titanic, but I've watched it fill with water and nothing happens, except you have a bathtub.
Yeah,
So-
well, this very generous one of our volunteers this year, Christine, is offered to sew us cockpit covers. So now the rain will not fill up the boats.
Very good.
Yeah.
Next question, will NSC consider arranging programming so that a few of the Martin 16s can be used for out-of-town regattas?
Mhm.
So,
Yep. Yeah, that did happen pre-COVID. For instance, we've already agreed to ship 2 of our boats to the Mobility Cup in Nova Scotia. So my response to the question is, it depends when it is. If we have programming running on a weekend that you might want to go to a regatta, it would really depend on whether boats are available. We've tried to work our programming dates around local regattas like NOD and the National Capital, et cetera, so that the boats are available for sailors to use. So it really depends when the regatta is. The answer is yes, as long as it doesn't conflict with existing programming.
okay. Yeah, I
we need to
realize
know
with,
early.
with 5 boats, there's not really a lot of boats that can
No.
leave town and still carry on the program.
Right. So later in the summer, when we're shipping 2 boats to Nova Scotia, you know, we're down to 3 boats in a program. So it has a big impact. So yeah, the answer is yes. I certainly would support that. So would the sail training director. It just really depends on the dates and the logistics of, you know, where are you going, how are you going to get there, and all of that stuff. So.
Before we leave them, you have the 2.4s, which are privately owned, as I understand. And perhaps you could speak about them. I guess I'd say maybe that you can graduate from a Martin 16, which is a shared boat, to the 2.4s, which are quite suitable for those with disabilities. But perhaps they're faster, I think. They're single-person boats. So maybe you can talk about them.
Yeah, they're single person boats. I am not the master of the 2.4 meters. There's people on this call that could answer that question much better than I. So they're privately owned. They are not specifically for persons with disabilities. There's Peter Wood owns one, and as do a couple of our able sailors. So it's a boat that is sailed by persons of all abilities. And in our team, our group, privately owned boats, they do go to Florida and to other regattas. The boat is definitely faster, and I believe a lot more competitive than the Martins. But again, I'm not the master. All the boats, all the 2.4 meters at Nepean are privately owned. But I do believe, and I might be speaking out of turn, I do believe there's some kind of event this summer where the owners of all the 2.4 meters have offered to let people try them. So if you're interested in that, we can get you the information on it.
All that information, I assume, will eventually be on the website.
Yes.
And in the Telltale, the
Yes.
weekly publication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. How many 2.4s are there altogether right now? Do you recall? 5 or 6? Or?
I think there's 5 or 6. I mean, I think of Aaron, Christine, Peter, Brian, and then, yeah.
Peter,
so
yeah.
Wood has one, Brian Peckover has one. So I'm thinking at least 5 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very good. Let's see. It says here, please contact Peter Wood for a demo sail.
There you go.
We ask a question and it just appears the answer.
There you go. Thank you, Peter.
So, and excuse me. Again, we have no further questions on the board here right now. There's a comment by one of the people that isn't a question, it's being basically a very interesting and well-researched presentation. Well done, and thank you so much for all your dedication and volunteer work towards the AbleSail program. And I think on behalf of everybody listening in and all of us at Nepean, I'm going to thank you again on behalf of everything you've done. So we appreciate that. And as is our normal thing to do, perhaps these are getting a little bit dated. Let's see if I can do this without, okay.
There you go.
This is a toque, which might still be good for you in Jay Peak for a little while.
Maybe.
But there's blue, and I believe there's red, and there's also black. And perhaps by the time you get back from Jay Peak, you'll be,
That's okay.
This is terrible to try and do this, you know. The normal ball cap.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it. And if you'd like to call in to Jamie in the NSC office, she'd be more than pleased to get your choice and it's available to you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming, and let us know if you want to get involved.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Next week, remember, we're going to have Kevin Davis speak about taking care of your diesel engines, and listen as he tells you all the secrets of what he's found, like where to find the spark plugs. So see you all next week. Stay safe and stay well. It's Park Davis. Good night.